I recently made a video grading all 30 NBA teams' off seasons. However, as a Wolves fan, I want to do a deep dive into our personal off season. I gave them a C+ in my 30 teams video, and I want to deep dive and explain why I gave them that grade and why I think we could have had a better offseason than we did. So starting off with the obvious, losing Nickeil Alexander-Walker hurts. I think it is a player that we can replace. A guy like Jalen Clark and Terrence Shannon, those two guys could replace his minutes. I think it'll work. However, Nickeil Alexander-Walker proved he worked in that role. I would have liked us to hold on to him. I'd rather not deal with the what ifs and instead just deal with the guarantees, especially if the theme of the offseason was going to be run it back. And then losing Luka Garza and Josh Minot hurts. Luka Garza really was a guy that was never going to get an opportunity here, as much as it sucks. I think Wolves fans love him. I know my dad is like the biggest Luka Garza fan ever, so he was very sad when he left for Boston. But those are two guys that just didn't really fit with what we were trying to do, unfortunately. And so it was a matter of time till they moved on. I don't think it's going to hurt us that they're gone. Would have liked to hold on to Luka though, just because he was a fan favorite. However, that didn't impact the grade one way or another. Now, the only addition, which I didn't have on the original graphic, is that we signed Johnny Juzang, I believe, to a two-way contract. He's a guy that I've liked ever since he was at UCLA. I think if he can get into our rotation, he could do some things for us, but if he doesn't, he's just a solid practice player. I don't think there's anything wrong with the move, but that being our only offseason move does kind of hurt, at least when it comes to free agency. The big thing, though, was the re-signings. Brought back Joel Ingles for another year. Nothing wrong with that. Julius Randle on a 3-year deal, $100 million. And then Naz Reid on a 5-year, $125 million deal. Two guys for $225 million. Again, if the theme's going to be run it back, that's fine. Julius Randle is a cheaper contract than I was expecting. Naz Reid is a more expensive contract than I was expecting. Happy we have them back. However, at the prices that we got him at, I'm hoping Naz Reid is worth the money. Julius Randle, like I said, it's cheaper than I thought he was going to be. I'm hoping that contract ages well, but that might be a guy that in year 3 of this, maybe he's not worth $30 million a year, and we have to move on from him. The big thing is our draft. You'll get 2 bigs in Joan Berninger and Rocco Zikarsky. Rudy Gobert's replacement is on roster now with Joan Berninger. I'm hoping he's good enough that if I'm pronouncing his name wrong, he's so good I have to learn how to pronounce his name, because I am about done with Rudy Gobert. Now, almost every single time I do one of these off-season videos or like Wolves-specific videos, it seems like I'm hating on Gobert like crazy. And it's not that I hate him, it's just he seems like a very overpriced contract for all he is tall and can block shots. There's not that many offensive moves, and he can't guard more than 15 feet out. He's not a switchable player, and so at the price range that we have him at, he's not worth it, and it's a guy that in this next era of the NBA is going to be phased out. Don't get me wrong, I still think that doing the Rudy Gobert trade was the best play. I still think we overpaid just a little bit in terms of picks, but it has worked out for us. Since we've had Rudy Gobert, we've been to 2 conference finals. Granted, he's not our number 1 player, but he doesn't have to be for the trade to be worth it. However, we went and got 2 centers. There's a reason for that. That's signaling to me that we're willing to move on from Rudy Gobert, and it is about time. And we're not going to get the value for him that we traded away. That's really the biggest thing for me, is that we have this run it back mentality. We spent money. We let one of our wings go away, and we draft 2 centers, and I don't know how we're going to fit them in. And Jones going to want playing time. He needs playing time to develop, and I think he can replace Rudy Gobert within a year or 2. I mean, he played well in the summer league, and for me, it's just we need to free up the Rudy Gobert money at some point, and why wait? The running back mentality is fine when you don't have an Oklahoma City Thunder sitting in your way. That's a team that you now have to get better than to beat. That's not a team that you're going to be able to run it back with, and you're going to be able to compete, because they dealt with us pretty handedly. This wasn't a 7-game series where they won every game by 4 or 5 points, and we won by 4 or 5 points. This was a blowout series. You need to get better to beat that team. You're not going to be able to beat them running it back. I see a lot of our young guys hopefully do develop. Terrence Shannon Jr. looks like he is going to develop. Jalen Clark is going to demand more playing time, which is awesome to see. The big question mark is Rob Dillingham. Can he take over Mike Conley's minutes at some point? I really want him to. He's clearly a guy that wants to be better at defense. However, it's just a weakness of his. He works at it. I'm hoping he gets there so he can be a good starting point guard in the NBA. And once he gets there, that's a cheap contract. Obviously, I love Mike Conley. He's been great for us ever since we got him. But it's clear he's on his last leg in the NBA. He needs to be a backup soon. We need Rob Dillingham to start. And it's mostly just a lot of teams in the West got better. I don't know if we necessarily got better. We did not get worse whatsoever. Even with losing Nah, we did not get worse. But I don't know if we gained ground on anybody. So that's why I gave them a C+. I think they could be anywhere from the C to B- range. So I put them in the middle at C+. It wasn't a bad offseason by any means. Right? We still secured our guys long term. We still had a very good draft. We really only lost one rotation guy who we have people on roster to replace him with, which is I'm sure why we let him walk. It just wasn't anything special. It didn't put us over the hump as the favorites in the West. I'm still hopeful for the season with this offseason. I don't think that we're going to be bad. I still expect us to be one of the better teams in our conference. If the divisions meant anything, I would think we're a very strong case to finish in the top 2 in our division. I think we are just as good as the Nuggets, even though they had what I think is the best offseason. You really think about it, our division is very, very good with 3 very good playoff teams, but I think we can be right there and maybe even win the division. Again, it doesn't mean anything, but remember OKC and Denver are in our division, so to win our division means we are better than OKC. I think this is going to be a really good regular season team again. I think at the minimum we should make the second round. I think the NBA Finals are reachable. You never know what's going to happen in the playoffs. Obviously, you don't want to plan for injuries on other teams, but if the dice roll the right way, we could face a team that isn't the Thunder or a weaker version of the Thunder in the conference finals, and I think we have a good chance against that team. So all in all, the floor is a second round exit in a very competitive series. The ceiling is an NBA Finals appearance, if not an NBA championship. And after all these years of misery, I've said this before, it almost sucks being this close and still being that far away from a championship, but it's a lot better at times watching a 17-65 Wolves team or something like that. Like, it's better to watch a team that's fun and competitive and wins basketball games than a really bad team. There's something to cheer for, but it's also kind of stressful to go into a season with expectations, but I'm excited for our season. I think this is a team that is still a contender, even with our offseason where it was basically run it back. I don't think run it back was the play. That's what we've done. We'll see if we do a super late trade like we did last year with the Cat trade. Apparently that's something we like to do. I wouldn't be against it depending on who it is. As long as Anthony Edwards is on roster, we're going to be really good, and I'm excited for the season. And yeah, that's all I got. Wolves had a middle-of-the-pack offseason, but it is what it is. We're still going to be a very good team. I'm still very excited for the season. Leave your thoughts below. If there's anything you agree with or disagree with, let me know down below. And other than that, I'm out. Peace.